You're listening to the Angela Henderson Online Business Show, episode 457. Hey there, you amazing human, and welcome to the Angela Henderson Online Business Show, the podcast that is designed for female entrepreneurs who want to make more money in a way that is in alignment for them. If you're looking for practical advice, proven strategies, and expert insights to help you navigate the challenges of growing your business, then you've come to the right place. Welcome, my friend. I am your host, Angela Henderson, a proud Canadian living in beautiful Australia, and I'm a business coach, consultant, and strategist who has helped thousands of women around the world build successful businesses. Through solo episodes and interviews with successful business owners, industry experts, and thought leaders, you'll get insider insights into what it takes to succeed in today's digital age. Whether you're struggling to scale your business, looking for ways to boost your productivity, or seeking ways to overcome the challenges of being an entrepreneur, this show has everything you need to succeed and more. So subscribe, pop your headphones on, and get ready to creating the business and life you deserve today by allowing the Angela Henderson Online Business Show help you create a winning strategy, develop the right mindset, and build lasting wealth. What if I told you that some of the best programs in the online space, the shiny ones, the ones with the hype, the testimonials, the urgency, that this will change your life promise, are using sales tactics designed to bypass your logic and pressure you into a yes you never would have given if you weren't emotionally activated? Hey there, you amazing human. It's obviously just Ange here, and welcome back to another podcast episode with me, your host, Ange from Angela Henderson Consulting. And today we're having a conversation that I believe every business owner needs to hear, and that is buyer beware, the sneaky sales tactics that should make you pause before you buy. Because the truth is this, even the smartest, most established entrepreneurs are being sold to in ways that feel inspiring, but underneath are deeply misaligned. And joining me for this incredibly important episode is someone who has lived it, unpacked it, and now supports others through it, the amazing Bianca Aiono. Bianca is a former elite athlete, top 1% of the fittest women in Australia, competed internationally in 6 sports, who tripled her business revenue the same year she naturally delivered 15 pounds of triplets. Yes, that is correct, triplets. She has led hundreds of purpose-driven entrepreneurs to expand their capacity to receive more profit, bigger opportunities, and premium pricing with more joy and less effort. And today, Bianca is here to talk about something most people never say out loud: the red flags, the manipulation, the tactics that look normal but are anything but, the investments that destroy self-trust, the shame that keeps women silent, and how to rebuild after you've been burnt. And this episode isn't just something that we've read about in the books or seen on social media. Bianca has lived this over the last 12 months, and it has ripped apart her soul. It has ripped apart her emotions. It has taken time away from her children. And I wanted to bring her on because this is something that we all need to be made aware of. Some of you might actually be doing some of these tactics and didn't even realize that this is what you were doing in your sales process. So I'm super excited to bring Bianca on today to talk about specifically buyer beware, and that is the sneaky sales tactics that you should make you pause before you buy. Hey, welcome to the show, Bianca.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ange.
I'm super excited to have you here today for selfish reasons. You're just a good person. I love being in your energy. So it's very cool just to be back connected with you. I know we stay connected on Instagram, or no, sorry, more so Facebook than anything. I had a session with you maybe about 18 months ago, which is absolutely game changer for me. And so it's just good to be back in your awesomeness. So thank you for being here.
Oh, and you make me emotional. I'm stoked to be here because of the embodiment of the leader that you are and just the advocacy for integrity, for truth, for women just standing in their power and creating their dream life and business. So I'm truly honored. Thank you.
Oh gosh, well, thank you. I received that goodness. So thank you. Now, let's jump right in because this is a juicy conversation, but yet a very important conversation, especially at this time of year in 2026 as we are in the new year, because the reality of it is that there will be some people out there listening right now, maybe you listener, where you're like, shit, you're almost like in a frantic state. You're like, it's the beginning of Jan. I got to go and do shit. I got to start making decisions. And you start to come from a place of scarcity versus a place of abundance. And so you might be looking at different coaches to work with right now. You might be looking at different courses that you want to take. And you might be ignoring some of these red flags out there that we're just about to talk about. And it's not just about the new year, it could be any time during the year. But this episode, I hope, is going to be able to help people really truly understand what to look for when you're buying a program or working with a coach. So let's start off. What are the red flags that business owners miss when they're being sold a program that might look legit on the surface, but underneath, those red flags are really, really red?
I would say that the very first one is trust transference and name dropping. So there's an element where business owners, coaches that are really positioning themselves as influencers can just name drop who they've worked with and who they've been on stages with, and invite themselves into containers where they can kind of parasitically absorb and piggyback off the trust of the person that they're coming into their community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I realized for me, I didn't do enough due diligence where just sort of, I think it's an element of looking at your own honesty and your own, oh, that person, I'm honest. So I would just expect the other person to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so easy these days to go, oh, I made a 500,000 in a half a second. And I've got a system that can help you go from 0 lead to 500 leads a week and then 60,000 followers in just 90 days. And when you've coupled that trust transference and that name dropping with then the results that seem, almost too good to be true, but are backed up by this trust economy, then it can really sort of hijack that positive, it's like the law of attraction when you really are leaning into that positive expectation, you're leaning into the aspiration, you're like, yes, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me too. And now all of our skepticism, all of our healthy self-questioning is sort of, it should be on guard, but it's put to the side and it's bypassed. And that's the really scariest part.
100%. Because again, would you almost say like some ways it's because of what we hear on social media and what we see, and like, again, results driven, whatever copy that they have is like almost like, not brainwash isn't the right word, but we've almost become immune to it. And so do you think it's harder to identify some of these red flags?
Look, Ange, I would say with my work, the thing that I stand for the most is integrity in selling, and I got hoodwinked. I got hoodwinked, and the particular psychological triggers that I realized, the promise for me in my case was learn these 17 psychological triggers that get people reading your stuff and make your posts go viral. And then the webinar was all actually using those psychological triggers on me. So without realizing that, one of them is about the brainwave inception trigger. So it's really about entering the conversation in a person's mind and then kind of like pushing buttons to not only want the thing that they're selling, but also depressing or compressing where you are right now. And there are these really very manipulative tones of voice, of deflection, of comparing and contrasting ways that just kind of go, oh yeah, you're right. Where I end this crap, what you've got is amazing. And I should just dive in head first without any of the usual checking points that I would usually make in a calculated, in a wise buying decision.
Absolutely. But also, in your particular situation, I know that we talked about is that there is you talked a little bit about it, but borrowed trust is what I would talk about, is that this particular person had come into a very dear friend of yours container.
Yeah.
Where you've got significant trust. I would even go as far as saying that this person, and again, you can drop names, I won't drop names, but the person, they're almost like family to you. You absolutely adore them. So that like they hold their containers also very sacred, right? And so like you naturally go, well, hold on. Not only is it a great environment, you've name dropped whatever, but this person also has got the borrowed trust of someone else too, which would also be a play factor, do you know what I mean, in this decision-making process. And because if you think about a cold lead, a warm lead, and then a hot lead, you're not actually even a cold lead, even though you might not know them that much. You're actually probably closer to a warm lead because of the borrowed trust of that dear friend, do you know what I mean, family member almost, that you have. And so that too, I think, could get swayed and also be something that people need to make sure that they're still doing their due diligence when looking at that, working with a coach or a program. So when you think back to this situation that had unfolded with you, If you think back to that discovery call, or like you talked about the webinar a little bit, are there any other specific marketing or sales tactics that they used? And like I said, now looking back, you're just like, oh yeah, like you said, you're like, yeah, there were 17 of them, I think you said, right? And you're like, that were a bit more manipulative or misleading. But at the time, like you said, because you had the borrowed trust, for example, you were like, oh, this is quite normal or even inspiring. Cause that's another one I see. Oh, how inspiring is that they da 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 da. So walk me through what that looked like for you, the specific, more those specific tactics that they may have had.
Sure, sure. Well, I'm completely transparent, and my bestie is Kylie Ryan. She's the leader and founder of Super Coach Academy. So she's been called the queen of NLP.
Mhm.
And when somebody, and this was Lauren Tickner, who I've taken to the ombudsman and been awarded my money back. But she came in and presented these 17 psychological truths, but didn't actually present them. So she sort of presented for 2 hours and then said, hey, just go and send me this, key message, keyword, and I'll send you the things I didn't get time to cover. Now, what I actually notice is that's a ploy in other webinars I've seen where it's like, oh no, we ran out of time for the thing that we said we were promised we're going to give. We've given you all this other value. So just now, just send us a message and we will give this missing part to you. Lo and behold, the bait and switch had started there. So what was promised wasn't delivered. And now I've sent a message and there is this spiraling, like I'm drowning into essentially quicksand into the sales funnel and I didn't even realize it. And, to Kylie's credit, that for her, she was just presenting something that was useful. She didn't actually endorse Lauren. She actually said to everyone, make sure you inspect and you do things on your own due diligence. And she didn't encourage anybody. But because of this process, in my unconscious mind, and it was for multiple other people in the room as well. I was not the only one because they're high caliber spaces, right?
Totally, 100%.
So I wasn't the only one. And I would say to the tune of 50, 60,000 was the level of sales that happened on the back end of that webinar. It's because we didn't realize, oh, she was just a person preventing a thing, handing out flyers. She could have been somebody handing out flyers at the shopping center, but because now she's been invited in, we unconsciously believe that she'd been vetted and that your defenses are down. And my 20-year friendship now is sort of transpired onto this scenario. So that was first where basically she got that flip in. And I would say then, so now I'm here in a sales process and I didn't realize. Now we're sort of going, hey, you're only getting this many leads. We have had this experience of getting 300, 500 qualified leads. I'm thinking to myself, that sounds like you're doing something really, really unusual and really exceptional. Sure, let's get on a call. Now the call starts like being friends because I'm thinking that we're friends and we're not friends. But one of the things was that these outlandish claims is where the reward is so high and then also the risk is so low because in multiple times and all across the marketing was you cannot fail. And actually it was that if this doesn't work for you, we'll give you back all your money. You will not risk a penny. If this doesn't work for you, then it means that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon must hate you. They must hate you because this is so foolproof, so turnkey, so effective that basically there must be something wrong with you if it doesn't work. So all those promises, it's like, okay, I'm prepared to take the next step or make a call. I'm prepared to make this next step. And then the pitch happens. And I actually heard and saw transcripts of another person's transcript of the same process. And when she pitched 18K and you kind of go, oh, okay, 18K, right? The next part is, oh, is that a lot of money for you? And so is that a lot of money for you? For me, I was kind of like, well, I wasn't prepared that this was an 18K kind of conversation. But with everything you're saying and tell me how your money back refund works. Oh, well, if you just don't make the money or get an ROI in the 90 days, we just refund you the difference of whatever you do, mate. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds really reasonable, really sure. Okay, let's take the next step. And I kind of was thinking, oh, well, that sounds like a hard thing to track. But okay, you're so open, honest, transparent about how easy this is. There was also a lot of posturing around this is for a particular type of person and we only take people on that we know can win. But as I discovered that this is the same pitch, whether or not you are a first-time online business owner trying to make the leap from in-person to online, or you are way further down the track. But the internal reference points of here's what you need to do, here's what you need to have, we're really being strict on who we allow in. And this is the once in a lifetime kind of opportunity at this price, with this level of service, with this level of efficacy. It makes it sound like this is so time sensitive. Sure, okay, and there's no risk. All right, let's go for it. Unfortunately for me, within 48 hours, I got it's a conditional guarantee and it has all these points in place, which also included I had to turn up to 12 a.m. group calls in the middle of the night. I had to do it started off at 50 outbound DMs per day, turned up to 170 outbounds
Per day.
per day, and
I'm like,
day.
I mean, you'd almost get banned from whatever platform you were doing the DMs on with that amount because they would think you're
Yeah.
like an AI bot. But that's another story. Yep. So, yep. Okay. So you start to look at the fine print.
Yeah, and so I actually never signed. And as it unfolded, basically everything started imploding. And so what I do is I do aligned wealth energetics. I can see what happens when there is a founder, and you don't have to be a bad person, right? Like, I think this is probably where I got tripped up, is that when somebody actually believes what they're saying and they have some level of numbness within themselves that they are ignoring the trail of destruction that then led from people in the past gone by. There's an element of them just going, well, this works, the system works, and I'm going to ignore all these other instances where it didn't work and where it was really negative for these other people. And I'm just going to keep on moving forward and ignore that. And so it's kind of like having a diet, right? You know, we all know there's thousands of diets and there's only 99% of them will not work for you. So there's only 1% of people that diet will work for, and it'll be amazing. And when you are moving forward as a founder, believing that your 1% diet is going to work for everybody, that's where it's not that, they believe that being dishonest in the moment, but it's unwise for them to be moving forward with that level of conviction that they can help. And that's what really tripped me up.
100%. And we'll get to what it cost you in a minute, not just financially, but emotionally and stuff. But I want to go back a little bit more. So we've talked about some of those red flags, but you're very good at what you do and you're very connected with energetics. But even in this instance, do you know what I mean? Like, again, and we all are humans, right? But when you think back to the internal red flags, did you ignore any? Like, those really big, like, gut hits, or your body's just like, there was a hesitation, or because you were really big about leading with heart too, like something feels a little bit off, not quite sure. Like, did you think back, was there any internal red flags that you ignored? And why do you think you pushed past them if there were?
To be honest, the internal red flags, I would say, were already bypassed. And it was a level of striving of like, oh, sure, I've got some money to invest and I'm going to invest it in myself. And so all those red flags were actually bypassed, and I should have. I think it was just that little part of going, oh, it sounds so believable. It sounds so risk-free. It's almost like I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her if I let her down and I don't prove her system to be correct. So that was an interesting one of me taking the burden of her system being successful, because perhaps I didn't have what it takes to make her. Maybe I was the one that was so fundamentally flawed that I would break her system. And so that probably came up, maybe the red flags. I guess it's those inner pivot points that happen later and that you unpack them later when it's a little bit the emperor's new clothes. And then it's you're convincing yourself, no, it's okay that she's changed platforms 4 times in the 3 months that I've been with her. No, it's okay that the internal coach that I've had has already been switched 3 times. And it's okay. It's a process that I haven't actually had any result. I mustn't be doing it correctly. So it's probably more like the erosion of your self-trust over time until you really get to the point where it's like, I am either going to allow this pattern to keep happening. And other people in my community did. They were like, you know what, I'm just going to write that down to an expensive lesson to be sold at high ticket program for what was essentially templates.
Mhm.
But I'm just going to wear that on my chin. And some people can be in that situation where they can take it on the chin. Some
Mhm.
people, it's worth the monetary part is trying to chase that down
Mhm.
and the internal disruption that it takes to have those conversations. Just is it worth it for them for their trajectory of their business?
Mhm.
But for other people where it's like you come up this part of going, I'm either going to be full of shit myself
Mhm.
or I'm going to knuckle down and go, this is what I know is right and this is what I know is wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand up for what you promised me, what you didn't deliver, and hopefully be an advocate for others so that others don't make the same mistake. And so that was probably really the biggest, hardest point of getting to that point of going, oh, tracking back to where were those internal hesitations that I didn't even recognize at the time.
Mhm. What happens it? But like you said, though, you could also argue again that because that trust factor was there, etc., that those internal things may have, like you said, been bypassed, right? Oh, I don't need those this time. This is safe,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not in a dark alley looking for do you know what I mean? Is this safe? Is this not safe? Do I do this? Because there was already a safety factor. You felt safe
Yeah.
being in this environment, in this container. So now listen, I know in this particular instance, despite all this, and then we can review and reflect, you also took your case all the way to the ombudsman and you won. And you're not
Yeah.
the only person.
Yeah.
But beyond getting your money back, generally, what did this actually cost you? And not just from that, like, oh, financial standpoint, because often it's not about the finances, it's about what we're standing for from a place of integrity and our values and things like that. But has it cost you with your ability to trust yourself or others? Does it take you longer to make decisions where maybe you made quick decisions and that worked for you? Walk me through a little bit more, or even emotionally, mentally.
Yeah.
What does this cost you way beyond getting back your money?
Yeah. Well, look, this happened a year ago and we're still having a conversation about it. It still brings up emotions where, this is the devastation of the betrayal and of you walking into a room, a Zoom call, thinking that this person has your best interest at heart,
Mhm.
and then realizing, oh no, they just looked inside your wallet, saw how much you had, and then took it.
Mhm.
So really, I had to go into a lot of different, and this is what I do, is I help people go into their past events and their trauma and their events and founding events and realize when was that time that now it feels like it kind of kicks you back to that time you got stolen from when you were 17. All that time for me, it was really because this person is British and I'm standing on Aboriginal stolen land and I'm
Mhm.
an Indigenous woman of Polynesia, really the ancestral codes of, it was inheritance money as well. So having this trigger of going, wow, I've been taken from, I've had this, it has extracted resources in the
Mhm.
way that the crown has done that to so many people, good-hearted people who have really important soul-driven messages
Mhm.
in their heart. That erosion of self-trust, it happened gradually. And at first I felt really embarrassed. I felt really fucking stupid. I cried. I felt like a loser. And then it also shifted to, I'm like, well, this is the grind, this is the grind that you have to do in order to be successful. It costs you speed in your business. It costs you just that little internal trigger point of, oh, you trusted yourself in that moment. And that was a safe space for you in that moment. And what you thought was trust now is no longer.
Mm.
But also, I really felt victimized by the entire asking for a refund, asking for her to activate her money back guarantee policy, and having multiple shifting emails with different responses. Then Commonwealth Bank trying to get my chargeback rights through there. I was having to go through 1,100-page documents to prove that chargeback rights existed.
Mhm.
So Commonwealth Bank was not on my side at all. And then finally having to go to the ombudsman and just trawling through it. So every moment, at every point, I was feeling victimized. I was feeling the victimization of my ancestors all coming through in this bodily sensation. And it's time, it's energy, it's presence with your loved ones. I think that's really the biggest wealth factor here, Ange, is like your ability to sit with your child and be present with them and to not have them go, oh, mummy, are you upset? Or mummy, why did you snap at me? Or why are you off with the fairies right now? And I've had to have very hard conversations with the people in my inner circle of like, this is not okay. And we cannot allow this to continue because this is not a one person event. So when I had to go through all my research, when I had to compile all the documents, I found the same kind of pattern spanning back 4 years. It's really the recognition of having to realize that it's only you're the one that you've been waiting for and you have to stand up. And so I'm really moved and touched to Ange about your advocacy for this and inviting me to be on the podcast and the actions that you took immediately after believing me and seeing my Trustpilot review and seeing the other ones. And it's a bit of a slow grind of restoring your trust back in humanity, your trust back in people. I think also kind of looking at it from multiple different perspectives and going, wow, I feel sorry for that person because you can't be ingesting that level of toxic money without it affecting you deeply. And you may not know how it's affecting you, but it's happening. And I really believe that what have we got at the end of the day when we're on our deathbed? Is it going to be the amount of money that we've got in our bank accounts, or is it going to be about what people say about us when we're gone? What people even say about you now when you're not in the room?
Listen, and my whole thing is it's just like at the end of the day, obviously I support women in business. I work with a few men, not many, but I support women in business. And I just think that more often than not, which is still sad, it's the women that are fucking over the women over and over. And that sisterhood, it destroys a little part of my soul every time I hear another thing.
Yeah.
And so I had already, which was not interesting, but I had done on my own post because I have seen 3 different occasions, do you know what I mean, where stuff have happened. And then you came back and you actually said, Ange, am I one of those that you're talking about? Because I hadn't named names. And I said, actually, no. And you're like, well, I've got another one to add to this, right? And there's also this, for me, loss and grief. And it's something that I talk often about in entrepreneurship is as you continue to scale your business or grow or shed your identity or become the new person, whatever, you will lose family and friends along the way at some stage because they may not be at the frequency and vibration that you're now firing at, whatever, and they don't talk about it. But when you pay to work with a mentor or a coach, I also believe you're entering into a very sacred relationship with someone, regardless if it's a $20 product or a $50,000 product. People are still human beings. And so when I heard that this had also happened to you, I just thought, no, this isn't okay. And I have a platform to share. And more women, and I know this happens because women will get on discovery calls with me and go, why should I trust you? Why? And I literally will say, I can't change the narrative that has happened to you. Like I have an open policy. You can contact any client of mine at any stage. Obviously, I don't give their information out. I seek permission and then I introduce them. Speak with any client I've ever worked with, past or current. No worries at all. What you go and have a conversation, then come back to me. Listen to my case studies. Do my go to Google me. Do you know what I mean? Look at the reviews. Do whatever. But I can't convince you. And I'm sorry, but this I reckon every week I'll hear 2 or 3 of these types of stories. And it, like you said, it erodes their trust significantly. And then I spend sometimes when I first start working with women, you can see that though they want to work with me and they're happy to work with me, but it's not normally till maybe the end of month 2 or the beginning of month 3 where you can kind of almost see them just breathe and really relax in their body again. Because I think they're just hanging on going, like their nervous system's still so rattled that this can't be true. And they almost sometimes will try to self-sabotage their relationship with me because it's like, oh, you're actually being nice. Oh, you're following up. And then they'll ignore me. And I'm like, hold on, I told you can't go missing in my program. And they'll be like, oh, I didn't believe that you'd actually cared. And I'm like, no, I told you that I did. So it's very interesting when it's happened to women. And it takes them a long while, but it impacts their growth. And what I think I couldn't agree more is it takes them away from their family. And they will say Ange, I'm supposed to be reading a book with my kid or but I should be reading with my kid, but all I can think about is this. I'm distracted. So there's so many things that it costs. I'm here for us using our voice in a way that is constructive so that others don't have to go through this again. But go ahead.
You just said a massive red flag that I realized because you showed the opposite of what you should, show what people should do and what they should look at. The whole quote that this happened was that money was taken on the call before I saw a contract. And what I noticed was one of the red flags is also separating you out from don't go and look at people, don't go and talk to your advisors and make this decision right now. Otherwise, you don't have what it takes to be that level of success. That kind of high speed, high pressure decision-making process that's also exemplified by, oh, can't you just throw down 18K and think nothing of it? And also don't speak to anybody about it because they are in a growth mindset. What you just showed then is what everybody should do listening. And just go, it's all right. Just like take some time. Go check out case studies. In my case, I should have just gone and Googled and said, this person's review, scam review. It's all there for me to access. You just showed.
Yes, I did. I was taught by a lot of Americans to do the contract ready at time of discovery call. And I never did it, not once in my entire 10 years of consulting, because I always believe that the right people will show up in my space. And so, and it was very hard for me, but I always say to people, I never want you to make a decision on the call. Go and chat with your family, go do your due diligence. And if it's meant to be, come back to me and I look forward to working with you. I'll send you the follow-up. I'll send you the contract. You do you. And I genuinely, like, there's no pressure. And I get a lot of shit from a lot of mentors. You need to give them, I don't necessarily believe, there's still a deadline, like, hey, we start in February or something like that. But they're like, no, you need to say that they've got 48 hours. They've got this. And I'm like, people don't work like that. Some people do need to speak with their husbands. Some people do need to move funds around. But I also say more no's than I do to yeses, because I say to people, I never want to be the financial topic of conversation on the first of every month going, Angela Henderson's money's coming out. And then you're in a fight with your husband. You're not sleeping. You're not eating. I was like, no, I said, it's okay to be like nervous. Like when I worked with a mentor that was $45,000, I remember like, oh God, this is a lot of money. It was like, but it was more like nervous / excitement. I knew the next level was coming and I was okay with that. That's different versus dread and angst and heaviness. There's a big difference. So that's why I say to people, unless you feel it in your heart and unless you see the results that I get for people, I literally say, do not work with me. Don't do it, because you'll show up to the call and their energy is going to be off. I'm going to go, what's wrong? Why are they not connecting? I need to know that when you look at your calendar, you're excited to take that call. And I need to look at my calendar to know I'm excited to get on that call. And if anything's off for me, the partner, this won't work. So please take your time. I'm very big about it, but I've gotten a lot of shit over the years about not closing on calls.
Yeah.
Enormous.
So it's just like, look at those promises, take your time. And then I had sort of the opposite of, I believe the promises, I didn't do my due diligence, I hijacked my own authority, and then I paid on the call, and then I got a contract 2 days later that showed the refund promises were conditional. So just don't do any of those things.
No, no, you're like in hindsight. But now let's say someone's listening today and they're like, oh my goodness, this shit happened to me, whether or not it was a course, a retreat, a conference, a coaching program, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, and that they might be feeling ashamed or blindsided. Is there anything they can do, like practically, in your experience after helping others, because I know you've also helped others go through this particular process, what rights do they have? How can they start rebuilding from this? Is there anything they can do? Like, can you give them some practical advice?
Yes. So in this situation, I think that the only real levers happen when you use public tools such as Trustpilot. That was the online review was the first thing that gave me leverage and that gave other people leverage, because the things that were happening behind closed doors didn't actually move the needles. And I guess even before that, reach out to somebody that you care about and just blurt it all out, compare and contrast. Now we have ChatGPT that you can go, hey, this is a sales conversation and this is what was delivered. Is there fundamental differences? Because that part of when you're already weakened and vulnerable, and in most cases, the money that you've put out hoping is an ROI, now that's drained. Now your energy is drained. Now your time has all been taken up the garden path. So you're feeling pretty low. So your first thing really is like, am I hallucinating? Am I imagining this? And am I right to feel that way? So get validated by even connecting with other people in the program that to realize that you're not the only one. And it's super important to document everything. So some of the people I've been helping hadn't actually documented because the platforms were constantly changing. So they didn't have a record of everything. So make sure that you have your emails, your messages, keep a strong guide of all these things. And then ask for a refund. And ask for a refund, keep pushing that. Don't worry about I think for me, it's like moving through the emotional parts of going, oh, now I'm going to be the uncool girl. Now I'm going to be the one who's not in the cool kids club. There's like, that is a farce. There's a much cooler kids club of people who are speaking truth and integrity. So really advocating for your rights and being respectful as well. And I really laid it out on the table multiple times in this situation, and I was ignored. And so I really got to that point where it's like, I have to go to the bank. Now, the thing with the bank and your chargeback rights is that I didn't have the bank, was not in my favor, was not on my side. They just wanted to take anything they could to not give me a chargeback, not even put it through MasterCard. So there is a little window of time of 120 days.
Okay.
For ongoing services, they will use this as a technicality. So I really was refused my refund maybe like 8 months after I paid. MasterCard was trying not to let me put it through because it was past that 120 day. No, Commonwealth Bank was trying to do it because it was outside that 120-day window. But if you don't know you didn't get what you paid for until 8 months, you've only got the date of discovery. So that was the biggest thing. So you've got to act fast. You've got to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Be okay with being outspoken and have your support system. And honestly, in this time, ChatGPT was my support system, knowing what it was to go to Australian Financial Complaints Authority, being able to put the 1,100-page MasterCard chargeback rights document through. And then also it was the only leverage, and even putting my review up on Trustpilot, I still am getting flags and ways that I have to prove that it was a genuine, actual experience. I was an actual customer of the Scale system. That is still something that goes on. So kind of you're on this long-term process, but there are people there that are barracking for you, that have been through it as well, that are there to support you. So yeah,
and I think this is the thing is like honoring our own boundaries is so important. And I know, and like this is something that you had to honor this for yourself. This wasn't okay in multiple layers. And I often say to people, every time you breach a boundary, you like yourself a little bit less.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, you're like, no, this isn't okay. And I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And these are the facts. And good on you, because I think knowing you, if you wouldn't have pushed through, there would have always maybe been that question about, oh, should I have done this? Should I not have done this type scenario?
Yeah.
But I also think in today's society, women's voices are still, don't talk, be seen, don't be heard, and there's also, depending on how you grew up and what that looked like in a family environment or et cetera, or cultural environment or et cetera. So good on you for being brave. Good on you for pushing through. Good on you for being an advocate and a voice for others. And my whole thing is when we use our voice, good will come, even if that means one less person doesn't have to go through what you went through. What a victory to be able to have that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah.
If you were to say anything else about your situation or give any other advice, what else would you like? What are your kind of final words around it?
Look, I did actually compile a Get Your Refund guide if you want to reach out to me to get that kind of help and that acknowledgement but you can also just go through ChatGPT and it will coach you through how to go through your ombudsman and approach all those different things. I think it was really the part of feeling alone and unsupported and invisible that was the biggest crux for me. And when I got this email back, and it was discussing the way I was gaslit in multiple situations. It was abusive, it was coercive, and there was really real stakes at hand. And so when I did get that approval and I did get that money back in my account, just standing out there on my lawn, on my home, and just crying to the heavens of being like I've been heard, and it really felt like a win for not just me, but for everybody. And
100%.
Everybody. Yeah. And I think it's like, even if your time has passed, your little window of opportunity has passed, I'm not advocating for cancel culture. I'm advocating for speaking up for your rights and saying what's just leaders and founders who can remedy situations, who can follow through on their promises. And I think it's so easy when there are people who are so much more accustomed. I guess it's narcissistic behavior, but it's like they kind of going through the world going, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And they match up with people who are super empathetic and go, oh, this is a me problem. I'm the one who's at fault here. And that's not true. We have to be less coachable. We have to standing in and going, no, that's wrong. And that wasn't a me problem. No, that's a you problem. And I actually do really feel sad for people who, I think everybody gets in business because they want to help people. And there's only a very small percentage of people who are getting into and going, I'm going to scam people. So everybody is operating in integrity with what they believe and their level of consciousness at the time. But what I was really disappointed was going through these, collating my emails and reference points. And there was a post that Lauren had made about being sued years earlier, and how she'd been losing sleep and losing hair and losing revenue and clients, and how bad it was feeling in her body. And then she walked into a room, a high-level mastermind, and said, I'm getting sued. And everybody's turned around and they laughed, all these high-level 8-figure entrepreneurs, and they laughed at her. And they laughed at how she was feeling sad. And they're like, you realize that you've just reached a new level of success. And so that was her sort of triumph moment of, oh no, this isn't bad. This isn't bad for me. That's not real feedback that somebody is giving me from a real client. She's just a hater. And her hating me is just a representation of my level of success that she's jealous of. And so I really feel like this culture, this patriarchal, colonial, extractive behavior doesn't just fail us as the victims, it also failed the founder, because they're also repeating behavior that they have been told is okay. And they are the cost of that as well.
100%. And again, we have choices to learn from our mistakes, right? Like we all make mistakes. And in that instance, going, actually, no, it's not, it's being sued is not a measure of success, right?
Yeah.
Like you really have to look inward, I think, if you're being sued for something. Like, hello, like, because I also believe it normally takes two to tango to some degree, but it's like, okay, but how did I contribute to this? What was my, like, we could keep talking, but it's one of the things that I'm just like, at the end of the day, people need to take radical responsibility for themselves. Remember to use your voice. Remember that it's safe to use your voice. And listen, I've always grown up with document all the time. Like all of my client notes are documented. And I do that not just for me, but for them. So at the end of the call, they've got their clear plan. They see what it is. I've got the plan. Like everyone's got something tangible. So keep your documentation and don't forget to follow your intuition. Do your own diligence. Now, this has been awesome. So for those listeners who are wanting to connect with you, where can they find you? What's the best way? What do you have happening in 2026?
Oh, look, I think this is really the catalyst when we use these constraints as a way to make us unfuckwithable, unapologetic, and make it the thing that catapults you into your next level. That's really the juice here. That's the gold. And I'm not sorry for the experience, but I certainly have found all those places that I abandoned myself, that I ignored and gaslit myself, and using that really as a catapult. And so that's really what I do now. I've just upgraded my modalities so I can help go in and rewire those events and those memories that set us up and shift into the trajectory. So for me, I have my triplets that are now in grade 1. They've just finished prep. And so I'm on a whole new 7 years, and we renew ourselves every 7 years. So I'm up into this next level of expanding and catapulting into my next level of profitable expression. If you're wanting to find more about that, you can go to biancaa.com diagnostic, and I can help show you whatever little pattern might be going on for you that's caused by one of these events from our past that might be limiting your expression and limiting your trajectory in business, and just holding you back from living the most thriving, brilliant, amazing life.
Dude, I love it. And like I said, I've worked with you in the past, speak very highly of you. Of course, obviously, everyone do your own diligence, but generally I wouldn't have you on the podcast and I wouldn't have worked with you if I didn't think you were a good human. So thank you so much for your awesomeness. But we've got one final question though, is if you're looking back on your business journey, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started off in business?
Oh, just write your own rule. Nobody else has the answers. And especially, just because somebody makes more money than you doesn't mean they know more than you.
Yes.
Most likely actually have no qualifications in leading the life that you want to live. So super discerning as to who you put your trust in.
Dude, I love it, my friend. Well, thank you so much. I have a beautiful day. And for you, listener out there, I hope you have an amazing day no matter where you are in the world. And I look forward to you joining me again for another awesome episode of the Angela Henderson Online Business Show. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Angela Henderson Online Business Show, www.angelahenderson.com.au.